There's a point in every conscious life where thought starts feeling too small. You notice your routines, your habits, even your dreams, all looping inside the same invisible grid. That's not coincidence, that's architecture. And the moment you begin to see it, the system starts to tremble. Human evolution doesn't happen by chance. It follows design. There are 7 stages, 7 lenses through which your mind reorganizes reality. Each stage sits above the last, governing it, shaping it, defining its limits. And when one expands, everything below it shifts with it. It begins with what surrounds you and ends with what will remain of you when you're gone. Stage 1, environment, the mirror that traps you. You think you choose your environment, but most of the time, it's your environment choosing you. Every color, every voice, every smell sends a message to your brain. This is who you are here. And so you adapt, quietly, unconsciously, until your surroundings become your identity. But the first key to evolution is awareness. When you start seeing your environment not as a reflection of who you are, but as a record of what you've tolerated, something cracks open. You realize every space you've ever inhabited was training your nervous system. And if the space no longer reflects the frequency you're becoming, it's time to move, redesign, or detach. Stage 2, behavior, the repetition of survival. Behavior is the muscle memory of your past. Everything you do automatically once kept you safe. Now it just keeps you the same. Every gesture, every reaction, every small decision is a code your brain runs to avoid discomfort. The moment you see that, the pattern weakens. You begin to notice the gap between what you do and what you intend. And in that gap lies freedom. Behavioral change isn't forced, it's chosen clarity. When your awareness expands, your actions follow. Stage 3, capabilities and skills. The architecture of possibility. Here, consciousness starts creating. You realize knowledge isn't just what you know, it's what you can do with what you know. Skill is the language your mind uses to translate vision into reality. This is where effort begins to turn into elegance. You start to refine your tools, your language, your craft, not to prove your worth, but to express your evolution. The most powerful mind is not the one that knows the most, but the one that can use what it knows fluidly, creatively, with precision. Stage 4, beliefs and values, the filters of reality. Beliefs are the invisible laws your brain obeys without question. They tell you what's possible, what's safe, what's moral, and most of them aren't even yours. They're borrowed, downloaded, inherited. When you question a belief, your whole nervous system trembles. Because to your brain, a belief isn't an idea, it's protection. But once you learn to watch the story without merging with it, beliefs lose their power to confine. You begin to replace inherited truth with experienced truth, and your values shift from control to coherence, from fear to meaning. This is where consciousness matures. It stops needing to be right and starts longing to be true. Stage 5, identity, the myth you built to survive. Identity is the most sophisticated illusion of all. It's the costume you stitched together out of memory, language, and approval. For years you defended it because you thought it was you. But here, something radical happens. You watch yourself watching yourself, and you realize the observer isn't the mask. It's the awareness behind it. You start to see identity as a tool, not a cage. You can play roles, wear faces, speak different languages, but you no longer mistake any of them for your essence. That's liberation, not from the world, but from the story of who you had to be in it. Stage 6, affiliation, the network of souls. Evolution doesn't happen in isolation. You attract frequencies that resonate with your current stage. Teachers, mirrors, disruptors. Some stay, some leave, some break you open. Each connection is circuitry. Energy moves faster between aligned minds. When you begin to live in coherence, you start syncing with others who vibrate the same truth. This is where collective consciousness forms, not as a concept, but as a living ecosystem. You stop asking, who do I belong to, and start realizing what belongs through me. Stage 7, legacy, the continuum of consciousness. Legacy isn't about what people remember. It's about what keeps vibrating after you're gone. Your thoughts, your creations, your words, all encoded frequencies in the field. At this stage, the question shifts from, what do I want, to what am I transmitting? You stop trying to make a mark and start becoming the mark itself, a pattern of energy that ripples through everything you've touched. Evolution reaches its peak not when you transcend the world, but when you realize you are never separate from it. The enlightened mind doesn't escape matter, it redefines it. Everything below reorganizes to match the frequency above. And once that alignment happens, consciousness no longer climbs, it flows. Now stay with me. Let's go deeper into each of the stages ahead. Growth never feels like growth when it's happening. It feels like collapse, confusion, static. The 7 stages aren't a ladder to climb. They're thresholds you dissolve through. And each one tests a different layer of your consciousness. You don't just level up, you outgrow the parts of yourself that can't come with you. That's why evolution hurts. It's the sensation of your own limits tearing open. Between stage 1 and 2, the friction point. The first rupture happens when you realize the environment that shaped you can't sustain you anymore. You begin to see how every sound, every schedule, every familiar face keeps you anchored to a version of yourself you've already outlived. And then the guilt comes. How dare you want more when others settle for less? How dare you outgrow the world that raised you? That's the mind's first trap. Loyalty to limitation. It whispers, stay where it's safe. But safe is just another word for unchanged. The hook here is subtle. If you stay, you decay. If you leave, you expand. The tension between those two forces is the sound of evolution, starting to move through you. Between stage 2 and 3, the identity crash. When your old meaning collapses, the world looks unfamiliar. You lose motivation, habits crumble, silence becomes heavy, and your brain, wired to seek pattern and certainty, begins to panic. This is the part most people mistake for failure. But in reality, it's the software update of consciousness. Everything that no longer aligns gets deleted. The cliff appears when you face the void, that place where nothing external validates who you are anymore. It's disorienting until you realize the void isn't empty. It's spacious. It's where the next version of you is being written. Let yourself pause there. Let the stillness rewrite your nervous system. Because the moment you stop resisting the pause, it turns into power. Between stage 3 and 4, the belief earthquake. Once silence settles, your mind starts questioning everything. Not out of rebellion, but because truth begins to matter more than comfort. Beliefs fall like scaffolding from a building that no longer needs support. Ideas about money, worth, love, time, all rewritten under a new physics of awareness. And here's the catch. Your subconscious fights back. It will project chaos outside to keep you from seeing the storm inside. You'll find yourself arguing more, judging more, doubting everything. That's not regression, that's purification. The hook comes right here. When your reality starts to fracture, don't chase stability, chase clarity. Because every belief you dismantle expands the perimeter of your freedom. Between stage 4 and 5, the mirror test. You've built skills, gained knowledge, and restructured your values. Now consciousness asks, who are you without all of this? This is the identity audit, the deepest one. It's when life mirrors back everything you've become, and you realize how much of it was performance. Not because you were fake, but because you were still learning the roles. There's always a moment, one sharp, humbling moment, when you hear yourself speaking and realize your mouth is moving, but the voice isn't truly yours anymore. That's the cliff, the crack between masks and essence. And when it breaks, you meet your real voice for the first time. The one that doesn't need to be right, only real. Between stage 5 and 6, the collapse of isolation. The next threshold feels paradoxical. You've spent years finding your individuality, and suddenly you're asked to dissolve it again. But evolution doesn't stop at self-realization. It wants integration. You realize there's no me without we, and that isolation was just another survival mechanism disguised as independence. Here you start attracting people who speak your language, not the language of words, but of vibration. These are your co-creators, the ones whose presence accelerates your field. The hook? You'll think you're finding your tribe, but in truth, you're remembering it. Every connection is déjà vu of souls who agreed to meet again when the time was right. Between stage 6 and 7, the transmission shift. Something sacred happens here. You stop trying to awaken others and start radiating instead. You realize that consciousness doesn't spread through argument or persuasion. It spreads through resonance. You become a signal, not a sermon. This is where legacy begins to form in silence. Every thought carries frequency. Every act, a ripple. The more coherent your inner field, the stronger the transmission. And one day, you'll notice people around you shifting without you saying a word. That's how higher consciousness moves. Invisible, undeniable, irreversible. The cliff here is subtle and eternal. To cross it, you stop chasing impact and start being impact. These 7 transitions aren't about perfection. They're about coherence. The alignment between what you think, what you do, and what you emanate. Evolution doesn't need permission. It just needs space. And the moment your awareness stretches beyond the architecture of the old self, you'll see that consciousness was never climbing a staircase. It was unfolding a memory. Integration is the quietest revolution. After all the noise, collapse, and reconstruction, something begins to click into place. It's not enlightenment that arrives, it's stability. Your inner architecture stops fighting itself. When you reach this point, the mind no longer races ahead trying to figure out what's next. It listens, it calibrates. It becomes a field, not a fight. You begin to sense the pattern, how every stage was never meant to destroy you, but to refine the signal through which consciousness speaks. You stop seeking transcendence and start embodying it. Awakening stops being a phase and becomes a frequency. Integration phase 1, the reconciliation of opposites. The evolving mind realizes duality was never the enemy. Darkness wasn't punishment. Light wasn't reward. They were both data, signals helping you map where consciousness needed refinement. You start to recognize beauty in what once felt unbearable. Every loss becomes translation. Every delay, direction. The emotional charge begins to dissolve. Perception expands beyond polarity. Here's the quiet hook. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what for? That's when pain turns into intelligence. Integration phase 2, the synchronization loop. When coherence sets in, patterns repeat, but with awareness this time. You revisit old situations, old relationships, even old fears. Except now you don't react, you respond. The body still remembers the old triggers, but consciousness chooses differently. This is neuroplasticity in motion. The brain, physically rewiring to match your new perception. And the paradox? It feels ordinary, like nothing mystical happened at all. Because true evolution isn't loud. It's precise. The hook here is soft but sharp. You realize mastery isn't doing more. It's needing less to stay aligned. Integration phase 3, the emergence of clarity. The fog lifts. Decisions come faster. Energy returns. But it's not adrenaline, it's coherence. Your inner dialogue becomes direct, compassionate, efficient. You stop negotiating with your intuition and start trusting it. The mind that once overanalyzed every move now moves like water. Not because it's careless, but because it's clear. It has nothing left to prove. That's the moment most people mistake for completion. But consciousness doesn't end here, it radiates outward. Transmission, the echo of evolution. Every evolved mind eventually becomes a transmitter. Not a teacher in the traditional sense, but a living field of resonance. People around you start changing. Not because of what you say, but because of how your energy organizes space. You speak slower, you listen deeper. Presence itself becomes your language. That's legacy in its truest form. Not what you build, but what you emanate. And this is where science meets spirit, because frequency, coherence, and vibration aren't metaphors. They're measurable phenomena. Your electromagnetic field literally syncs others into alignment. So when you breathe calmly, when you stay present in chaos, you're not just being peaceful. You're reprogramming the collective nervous system in real time. Integration phase 4, the return to simplicity. You circle back to the ordinary. Coffee, work, laughter, silence. Except nothing feels ordinary anymore. You start to notice light falling on a wall and feel awe. You watch someone smile and see galaxies moving in their eyes. Reality stops being background noise and becomes sacred geometry in motion. That's the paradox of higher consciousness. You expand into infinity only to return to the smallest details. And finally, you see them. The last hook lands softly here. You realize you were never meant to escape the human experience, only to illuminate it. The cycle beyond the 7. The mind that has walked through all 7 stages doesn't graduate. It integrates. And evolution continues in spirals, not lines. You revisit the same levels, but from higher frequencies each time. Environment, behavior, skills, beliefs, identity, affiliation, legacy. Each becomes a living hologram, updating in real time as your awareness grows. Every shift in identity refines your environment. Every evolution in belief reorganizes your behavior. Every expansion in consciousness leaves a trace of light for others to follow. It's recursive creation, the universe remembering itself through you. You don't need to rush anymore. The universe isn't waiting for you to arrive. It's unfolding through your awareness now, and maybe that's the greatest secret of all. Higher consciousness was never above. It was always within, quietly waiting for you to notice that you've been ascending this whole time. Subscribe, stay close, and keep walking with us. This is Human Wave, where awakened minds rise into a life of wholeness and fulfillment.